Yeah, so let's take a look at who the Ambani family is in India that is financing the Logan Paul and Conor McGregor fight, because that'll explain a lot of questions that people have about how this is happening. A purple bruise on her right shoulder, a purple bruise on the right side of her upper back, and that's like just getting warmed up for this, and then it turns into all of this also. All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back. So everybody has heard by now that Conor McGregor has agreed to fight Logan Paul in India, and I am sure that the question you're asking is, why would Dana allow this to happen? And I have an answer for that, and it also falls directly into the same question and answer of why would Conor do this right now, as opposed to something, I don't know, with a little bit more credibility. You know what I mean? You're going to fight Logan Paul, really? Mike Tyson, who's 58, just fought Jake Paul. Why would you fight Logan Paul, who, by the way, couldn't even knock out Dylan Dennis, who has no striking. No offense, Dylan Dennis, but I mean, you know what I mean? But so what's happening here? It's very obvious, to me at least, because if you want to see really what's going on, let me show you this, okay? Because Mixed Molly Wapri put out a video yesterday, a fantastic one that we're also going to go through in this video, which was additional stuff that the jury never saw in this case. Very interesting. This part potentially being the most interesting, which is the full extent of her injuries, because they don't make sense. It's unbelievable how many injuries she had. And at the same time, they don't make sense across, it just doesn't make sense. And I'll go through that later. It's rare when a video like this, something I've had such a firm opinion on, where I watch something and I feel like I've got a really strong handle on the case, and then it kind of pulls me in both directions, where one part of this story, I'm like, oh, so really for sure he didn't do it. And then there's another part that he goes through here, I'm like, God, I can't explain that. I can't, there is, you know what I mean? I can't, the same way that I can't explain the CCTV where there's no way that she would do this after that. There's another factor over here. I can't explain that. And I will be perfectly honest about that. So we're going to go through that after we talk about the fight. But yeah, first we're going to talk about why, what's going on in the fight, where it's happening, what the reason it's happening. And obviously a lot of it has to do with money. And why Dana's going to allow him to do it. And spoiler, I already talked to Dana. The reason why he's allowing him to do it is because he found out Conor McGregor was subscribed to my channel and he had liked all of my videos. And Dana's like, look, that's obviously a good person that deserves to make all this money. So, all right, so let's jump into this thing. And we're going to start with Mixed Molly Wapri's video about the trial. And then we'll get into Conor McGregor fighting Logan Paul. And like I said, this is a video that Mixed Molly did about what the jury did not see in the trial against Conor McGregor. Now, if you're not following Mixed Molly Wapri on YouTube, get on it, okay? My favorite all-time documentarian, him and Patrick Gavia, that does MMA content. And I encourage you to watch this entire video also, because I'm only going to cover about maybe like a third of it. But before I get into it, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to make a quick $50 with 90 seconds of your time with Prize Picks, because there are some really fun fights that you can do on Prize Picks this weekend. Now, if I told you that you could make $50 for free if you take 90 seconds of your time to do something, it's something that you would do, especially if the 90 seconds is going to be something fun, because that's exactly what Prize Picks and I are offering you right now. I want to be very clear. There is no gimmick here. There's no chance where this does not lead to $50 free for you. There's nothing you have to pick right. There's no game you have to win. If you play a $5 roster on Prize Picks, you will get $50 into your account, whether you win or lose the roster that you entered. How much you can win in addition to the automatic $50 depends on the size of the roster that you pick, but I'll let you play around with that a little bit. Now, you also could try to win real big and play more than $5, but you don't have to. Take a look over here. Look at what I stand to win if I hit this roster. Hold me accountable to this. I'm putting it on my channel. I'm putting my face on it. Hold me accountable, and also hold me accountable to this. This game is super fun. You're going to want to play. As you can see on the left side of the screen, all you do is go through the athletes that you want to pick in a specific sport. In this case, we're doing UFC because my girl Rose Namajunas is fighting on Saturday. In addition to MMA, they have college basketball, college football, NBA, NFL, any sport you can think of, you can play on Prize Picks. Now, in the roster you see over here, this is obviously a UFC roster. I'm playing a $5 game, which means if this was my first game, I would see a free $50 put into my account the second that the game starts. So come join me for Prize Picks. It's an amazing game. You'll be supporting my channel and you'll be getting free money. Also, look at my roster, take a screenshot, and then you can see how I did. And also, I want to know who you guys are picking. Send me your rosters if you want. Link is in the description. Use promo code JesseOnFire for the $50 bonus, and that is what it is. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert in advance of this part, okay? So the first part that he talked about that in my opinion, obviously further supports Conor's story is that they had the taxi driver that drove Nikita Hand and James Lawrence away from the hotel. Okay, so let me just make sure that we get up to speed on how the story went again. Okay, so Conor and her in the hotel room with James Lawrence and her friend. James has sex with her friend. Conor, has sex with her, whether it's consensual or not, whatever, who knows. Anyway, Conor leaves. He leaves them there. Okay, so they all Conor and the friend leave. The other two, James Lawrence and Nikita, stay. They are down on CCTV, partying, going back up to the hotel room and then leaving again and back up to the hotel. Like they're having a grand old time. When they leave together in a cab. James Lawrence says he had sex with Nikita Hand. Nikita Hand lied about having even stayed there or having been with James Lawrence. And she said, oh, it never even happened. We definitely didn't have sex. But she lied about the fact that she was even there with him and got caught in that lie. So how could you believe anything that she says? Anyway, so the cab driver said that while they were in the cab, that she was going down on James Lawrence. Okay, so the cab driver testified to that. Okay, and the judge did not allow that testimony into the case. So the jury was not allowed to hear that. Now, why were they not allowed to hear that? I have absolutely no idea. That seems pretty relevant, don't you guys think? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they should hear that if that's true. So he must have been saying, actually, I have no idea what they're thinking, aside from the fact that they really wanted Conor to lose this case. You know what I mean? But yeah, so they weren't allowed to hear the fact that the cab driver testified that Nikita Hand was going down on James Lawrence probably 6-7 hours after Conor supposedly beat her within an inch of her life and took it from her, before she hung out and stayed for another however long. Now, here is where we get into the section where Mixed Molly goes through her injuries and a couple other things. So I'm going to let him talk and I'm going to stop and comment as needed, because again, this is where we got into a thing where I'm like, I can't explain this.
About the reliability of Nikita Hand. A lot of people make a big deal out of her lying to her boyfriend, and maybe that does speak to her character in a way that is relevant. But the bigger issue for me is not the lies. It's that when she was trying to give an honest account of the truth, when she was trying to tell the truth, it seems she just couldn't do it. And this was not only a matter of minor discrepancies, like where she was when she sent certain messages. Those details aren't that important. This was bigger things, like she completely invented and imagined extremely stressful and dramatic scenarios that verifiably did not happen. And I'll give you one example. The first person Nikita spoke to about the events of that day was her manager, Emer Brennan. She spoke to Emer shortly after James Lawrence left her in the taxi. So she didn't go home. She went to Emer's house. And Nikita told her that she had kind of escaped from the hotel. She had been worried that McGregor's security were going to assault her. And so she ran from the hotel car park and got into a taxi. And that's how she got away. Very action movie-esque. As we know, she left the hotel in a calm manner in a taxi with James Lawrence.
Which then the cab driver testified that she was going down on James Lawrence in the back of the cab.
There was no dramatic escape like she described to Emer. And I wouldn't doubt that she believed her story at the time. So just being honest here, she was in a very bad state.
That's giving her a lot of credit. By the way, there's nobody who I respect more than Mixed Molly when it comes to this kind of thing. He is incredibly, incredibly unbiased and logical. I mean, again, I don't know why you would assume that she would believe her own story, though, when she is just a compulsive liar who lies about literally everything.
And simply not interpreting reality in a reasonable manner. She gave multiple different accounts of the events to different people. Her manager got one version, the boyfriend got another version, and the police got another one. And we also know she forgot very significant portions of the day. So she was forgetting things, she was inventing things, she was mixing stories up, and she was lying. That's not a character assassination from me. Those things are verifiably true. So I think people are just shocked. How could the jury have possibly found against McGregor? And a lot of people are saying this suggests bias or a conspiracy against McGregor. So I want to take a shot at how the jury might have arrived at their decision, because it's very likely that in a civil case with a low burden of proof, instead of looking at every detail and every inconsistency, they could have distilled this whole case down to a couple of relevant questions and then simply answered those questions with what they felt was most likely.
Bingo. So that's an excellent point that he made, right? And then he goes through, and then now he's about to go through her injuries, okay? So her injuries are where you go, all right, I had personally never heard the full description of her injuries. Like I had heard them, but not to this detail, and I'm like, okay, how does that happen? You know what I mean? All right, so let's continue and get the specifics on her injuries.
Explanations appear to be the following: an accident or a fall. You know, McGregor said she swan dived into the bathtub. So like she could have banged into something, or even a series of accidents. Another possibility would be rough sex. And of course, we have the whole reason for the trial, the possibility that the injuries were the result of an assault. I'm sure there's other theories, but those are the main ones. Now, 2 medical examiners agreed that the injuries were compatible with Nikita's story. But let's take a look at the injuries, and you can kind of get a sense yourself. For me, a fall or a series of accidents doesn't seem to make sense, but listen for yourself. An abrasion on the right side of her jaw, which had been bleeding, a purple bruise on the right side of her neck that looked like a love bite. On her right arm, 3 purple bruises consistent with fingertip bruising, a bruise midway down her forearm, and 2 separate purple bruises on her lower arm. Purple bruising on the knuckles of her right hand that was tender on examination. Now, the purple bruising on her knuckles will be important later in the video, so just make a mental note of that. On her left arm, a purple bruise on her upper arm, 2 separate bruises on the elbow joint, an abrasion on the elbow with 3 separate linear abrasions below this, and 4 separate bruises on her lower arm. A purple bruise on her right shoulder, a purple bruise on the right side of her upper back. That's already a lot. But listen to these ones. Extensive bruising on her buttocks.
And I'm going to cut in right here really quick because I want everybody thinking about a couple things about how she got these. Consistent bruising on her buttocks, consistent with a handprint on her left buttocks, okay? Now, do I need to walk you guys through how a handprint ends up on a girl's buttocks after a sexual encounter? No, okay? However, that does not support a sexual assault at all, okay? If you are having to restrain a girl while you are in intercourse, how are you going to be slapping her out? Okay, like that's not something that happens during an assault. That's something that happens during a rough session where you're, you know, like unless you guys can walk me through how that would happen. I mean, unless she's like given up. I mean, this is kind of really messed up to even think about. But unless you have her pinned down and she's like given up and you're like slapping it or something, it's horrifying to even think about. But that particular one, I was like, handprint. I'm like, for an assault? You know what I mean? Anyway, but we'll go through all of these because, again, I can't explain these aside from that one.
Consistent with a handprint on her left buttock, a purple bruise on her right breast, and a 9-centimeter scratch on her left breast. 2 separate purple bruises on the left flank of her abdomen. 4 separate purple bruises on the front of her right thigh. 2 separate purple bruises on her right kneecap and bruising on her left thigh. 4 of her acrylic nails were missing.
That's, I don't know. I mean, that's a lot, dude.
So, I'm not an expert, but reading that, you can certainly understand why the medical examiners felt all this was the result of a sexual assault. It certainly doesn't sound like she fell in a bathtub.
Yeah, okay. So, and just so I don't just step on his entire video, let me just summarize. There is no time frame, right? Like, so then he goes through the recording with the boyfriend and how the boyfriend is specifically talking about her injuries, which makes it very unlikely that, like, you know, I don't know. It makes it very unlikely that that he's the one who did it. And so unless James Lawrence did it and then they got in the cab together and went off, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to make of that. Like, when would this have happened? Because also the first person she went to was the manager of her hair salon, and she said that she saw the bruises and she took pictures of them or whatever. So, like, there's a lie in here somewhere, dude. There just is. Because a person who took that amount of beating does not hang out and just act like nothing happened with James Lawrence. So, like, when did it happen? You know what I mean? Like, I like that broke my brain. The amount of the injuries where I'm like, I don't know what to even make of that. I really don't. I don't know, unless she like bruises super easily. Like, she's one of these people where if you just grab them hard, they just bruise. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what to make of that at all. But when you go, I mean, like, dude, read that, dude. It's like purple bruise on her upper arm, 2 separate bruises on the elbow joint, an abrasion on the elbow with 3 separate linear abrasions below this, 4 separate bruises on her lower arm, a purple bruise on her right shoulder, a purple bruise on the right side of her upper back. And that's like just getting warmed up for this. And then it turns into all of this also. So again, I don't know what to make of this. Okay. Because this is a level of injury. I did not understand. You were talking about this much stuff. It doesn't mean Conor did it though. Like, it doesn't mean Conor, but it seems like there is not a single part of her body that's not injured. Okay. So you have to ask yourself this though. How does all of that happen? Okay. Like this, and I'm being serious. This is Conor McGregor. Okay. Like this, when we're talking about this level of injury, like this is Conor McGregor. Okay. No one accused him of just wanting to like beat her up. Like, oh, I'm just going to beat her up. I'm like, if he wants to beat her up, he's going to punch her face. Right. If Conor is out there and he's just in a violent rage, he's going to punch her face. Okay. So no punches to the face. Her face is fine. So how does this happen? Because Conor is I know people broke his balls about his jiu-jitsu recently, but believe me, a hairdresser that's a female, you don't need to be the best black belt in the world to be able to subdue her incredibly easily and do whatever you want with her. So what, like, if he's just there to like sexually assault her, why does he have to put all these bruises on her? It doesn't even make sense. Like, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make, why? Like, why is Conor scratching her? Why is Conor punching her? Okay, like the idea that she would be able to fight back hard enough that he would require bruising her all over her body and scraping her, whatever, it's ridiculous. Like, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He can do whatever he wants with her and she's not going to have any bruises. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But again, I can't reconcile how these injuries get on her. I just can't. I don't know what to make of that. All right, so Conor McGregor said he intends to delay his return to MMA and has agreed to face Logan Paul in a boxing exhibition in India. So first of all, assuming this fight actually happens, he's going to make $100 million for this. Okay, just so we're clear. Like, that's going to happen. Okay, he's going to make $100 million for this fight. McGregor, a former 2-weight UFC champion, has not fought since he broke his leg in TKO, lost to UFC Poirier. We all know all this stuff. The rumors of a bout with Ilia Topuria, not true. I'm in preliminary agreements with the Ambani family to face Logan Paul in a boxing exhibition in India. I have agreed. I will then seek my return to the octagon. Okay, so here's the deal. All right, like, just before we even get into the nuts and bolts of this thing, this is just really straightforward. Assuming Dana is allowing him to do this, this is because Conor is desperate, dude. Like, not, and I don't mean desperate in the way that like a truly broke person is desperate, but I mean desperate in terms of I was making $10 million a month on just this right here, and I lost all of it overnight. I lost it. Like, all of my monthly revenue is gone. Just like that, literally overnight. It's all gone. My proper 12, my fill in the blank, all of the other sponsorships that he lost. All of that is monthly guaranteed income, okay? That is partially what I live on, okay? I do AdSense, and then I have a bunch of sponsorships that are about the same as I make on AdSense. Like, if all of a sudden I went to zero, and you guys are like, well, what are you worried about, dude? You've made blah, 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 blah in your life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, but dude, you've made fill in the blank some big amount of money that you made in your life. It's like, okay, I wasn't expecting to lose all of my revenue overnight. Okay, like just because Conor made millions of dollars, he had spent like he would continue to make millions of dollars, and then bang, he does not have this money coming in. So assuming that Dana's allowing this, that's because Conor's like, look, I'm in a jam here, dude. Like I need this money. Like I need this money. Okay, now I would imagine Dana probably would have said no to Jake because he just probably would have. That's it seems like a different thing to me. But like a Logan fight, who cares? Now, also, why is it happening in India? Excellent question. Because as Conor alluded to, it's with the Ambani family. And here is who the Ambanis are, okay? Mukesh Ambani is an Indian billionaire businessman who is the chairman and managing director of Reliance Industries. He is the richest person in Asia and the 9th richest in the world. So there you go. This guy is worth $119 billion. $119 billion. So when you start thinking about, why would they pay Conor $100 million? Are they even going to make their money back? It's because who cares? You know what I mean? And also, they probably will, given the fact that Logan Paul versus Conor McGregor, if marketed correctly, will be one of the biggest. I mean, it's embarrassing to even say, but it's going to be a massive event, a huge event. If they do like a tour and they like, speaking of fights where you're going to have two rich guys who are buddies, like Conor and Logan are going to be friends. They're going to pretend to hate each other. It's going to be obvious, and everybody's still going to pay for the fight, and that's just what it is. That's just what will happen, and that's the world that we live in. But anyway, so going back to the actual, story at hand. So I do find this a little bit interesting how he, the fact that he put up, I'm in preliminary agreements with the Ambani family to face Logan Paul in a boxing exhibition in India. I have agreed. I will then seek my return to the octagon. Okay, so I'm in preliminary agreements. So it's not agreed to, right? Now, I don't see why Logan Paul would not do this fight. I think Jake is going to be really pissed. You know what I mean? Jake Paul has been angling for the Conor McGregor fight like forever, right? I mean, let's be honest. Like that's a thing that's been happening for a very long time. And if the Ambani family is going to put it on and Conor gets a green light to do it, I mean, why would MVP not be able to co-promote this? So if Logan is snaking this fight from Jake, I would imagine Jake is going to be really, really, really pissed. I mean, actually, there are a couple options for why Jake would not be able to do this fight. One, Dana wouldn't allow it. Two, Netflix is in an exclusive with Jake now or something. I don't know about that. But, I mean, if Logan just kind of snapped in and was like, hey, let me take this Conor fight, that would be pretty messed up, dude.